is Haley. I've been Ella's primary trainer for the last little while. And I hope you can bear with me. I'm making my own recording here, so I'm going to try to stay in the picture for you. But we're going to give you a brief video demonstration of the training that Ella has had. The training program can be broken into 5 main components. There's socialization, manners, obedience commands, house training, and leash training. Most of what I'm going to show you here today are going to be manners and obedience commands. And we'll go ahead and we'll start with manners. Some manners are placed on command, but most of her manners are not placed on command. They're simply behaviors that she's been taught and she's expected to follow through on. Examples of this are, I want her to sit automatically for a greeting, which means basically when she approaches me and makes eye contact or anything else, or just doesn't know what else to do, I want her default behavior to be to sit. And that does a couple of things for us. Number one, when she's sitting, she's planted and she's grounded, not moving anywhere. And also, when her butt goes down, her eyes come up to meet mine. And then she's ready, she's looking to me to give her direction and tell her what to do next. So sitting for greeting is one of her manners. Another one of her manners is to be very, very gentle with her mouth and with her teeth and taking things out of your hands. And if she ever needs a reminder, you simply say gently when she's taking things out of your hands, gently, good girl, and expect her to be very, very soft and to use her lips and her tongue as opposed to using her teeth to grab things out of your hands. So, another one of Ella's manners are her mealtime manners. First of all, as far as our meal times, when we eat, we lock Ella into a crate, and so she's always contained, because like at my house I have little kids, so there's food hitting the floor all the time, and the dog can learn to hang out under the table and learn to beg. So if you make a habit of locking your dog in the crate during meal times, then they'll never learn to associate the smells of dinner with an impending snack. As far as her meal times, one of her manners is that she's expected to be released by you verbally to be allowed to eat. You don't want her plowing you over, jumping all around, trying to get the food out of your hands, all excited about it. Okay. You want her to wait for you to give her permission. And wait for that verbal release. And this touches on the foundation of this training program, which is we're replacing physical control with verbal control. We really want them to rely on your verbal cues to tell them what to do. An acronym that I use to help me is All Good Dogs Fetch Toys, AGDFT. And that stands for attention, gates and doorways, food and toys. These are 5 things that most people naturally give their dogs several times a day. Anyway, throughout the course of the day. So make sure you use these times to strengthen her obedience, and make sure that you don't get in the habit of just letting her go in and out of the doors, just letting her brush past you. You know, you might not think much of it while she's still kind of small, but as she grows into a large dog, that can be a very, very bad habit. And the more you use those checkpoints and the more you expect her to ask permission or to look to you to know what to do next, the more that's going to contribute to your bond with her. Dogs have a pack mentality, which means that they really like knowing who's in charge. They like being able to take orders from somebody. That gives them a real sense of security. So go ahead and remember to ask for those things. Anytime you go through a door, anytime you feed her, anytime you water her, anytime you give her a toy or a treat or attention, you know, even when she approaches you, before you bend down to give her lots of loves, ask for that sit, ask for obedience. And that'll really help to establish it in her mind that you are the leader. Another one of her manners is, let me grab a toy here. things on command, and you tell her to drop it. She loves to retrieve. Ella loves to retrieve. And you don't ever want to pull something out of her mouth. That'll teach her to grab on, and she might get you. So make sure that she always actively opens her mouth and releases something into your hands. You simply say, drop it, drop it. Good girl. And you can replace it with a treat or something else. Here, let me come over here in the camera and make sure that you're able to see that. Good girl, drop it. Good girl. And that just contributes to her manners with you. I'll go ahead and go into the obedience commands. We're going to show you come, sit, stay, down, down, stay, crate, drop it, and watch me. Come. Okay, good girl. Sit is taught with a hand signal and a voice command, and she responds to both. There's 3 hand signals that we use in the training program. The first is a sit, just a little scoop up over the nose, just like that. The next hand signal is a stay. You just make a stop sign with your hand, like that. Stay. Okay. Good girl. Just want to make a note here. You might notice that I use a lot of fluctuation in my voice. So if I want to tell her to, hold herself still, like in a stay or something, I'll use kind of an authoritative tone of voice. I'll say stay. And then when I want action, I want movement out of her, I want to release her from that command, then I use kind of more of a chipper, upbeat tone of voice. When I say, okay, I release her. And dogs respond to that really naturally because they don't use words, obviously, to communicate with one another, and so they rely heavily on body language and on voice fluctuation. So they pay a lot more attention to that, on how you say something, than the actual words that you say. So make sure you take advantage of that. That'll really help her understand what it is you want out of her. If you want her to control and contain herself, use an authoritative tone of voice. If you want action and movement, use an upbeat tone of voice. Good girl. The third hand signal is for a down. And you start with a sit. So start her out in a sit, down. And then I make my hand flat and take it down to the ground. Good girl. Stay. Program. For the first couple of years that I was training, I really struggled with that because I felt like they were getting treat spoiled, or they would pay a lot of attention to me when I had food on me, and then they would ignore me sometimes when I didn't have food on me. But what I've since found, taking dogs up through advanced obedience, is that food is very, very effective, and the more consistent you are at using food or some kind of a high value reward. We don't always use food. A lot of times we use toys as a reward, we use attention as a reward, we use a release as a reward, like getting out of their kennel or getting out of their crate. But the more consistent you are at making obedience worthwhile for about the first 8 months to a year, then the more easily you can transition out of that. Because what you do is essentially you make it worth it every single time, or as much as possible. And so you drive those behaviors into automatic behaviors, kind of like a muscle memory, to the point that when you give a command, their body will respond to that before their mind even has a chance to think about it. And they never question it because it's always worth it. So, like, for example, my personal dog, he's about 5 years old now, and I give him a food reward maybe once a week anymore. But he still always does what I ask him to do the first time, because it's just what we do. He's just so used to that. So, yes, using food is going to be inconvenient for the first little while. I'm not going to lie to you about that. Make sure you have things handy. Make sure you have toys handy. Make sure you have things that are valuable to them handy. But it's a real investment long term. So if you make obedience worthwhile every single time, or as much as possible, then you can transition out of that once you've driven those behaviors into automatic behaviors. And what I've also found is that if you're inconsistent at using a high value reward, or if you're very predictable about when you are and are not going to reward, then they do kind of develop that on-off switch. Good girl. Yes, that's a good girl. And they do learn to think about it every time. Is it going to be worth it this time, or is it not? And they make a decision based on that. So make sure you follow through with that. Good girl. So we've done come, sit, stay, down, down, stay. Great. Okay, good girl. We've taught her to go into her crate on command. And we have spent a lot of time and care teaching her to relax and enjoy being in her crate. And initially this is kind of a struggle. They usually don't like it too much to begin with. But this can be one of your most handy tools at preventing a lot of dog drama, is what I like to call it, in your life, in your family's life. Examples of this are house training problems, destruction problems. Anytime you leave the house or you need to take your eyes off her for a few minutes, just pop her in a crate. It's a no-brainer. And something that we do is we always give them something to chew, something they really enjoy when we put them in there. We give them like a nylabone or a bully stick or something that they can really enjoy to help them relax. But a lot of time and care has been put into getting her used to her crate and enjoying her crate, so make sure you take advantage of that. We've worked up to 3 hours during the day that she can sleep comfortably in her crate, and a full 8 to 9 hours at night without needing a potty break. Having said that, when they first get home, it's very, very common for them to get a loose stool because of stress and transition and everything else. And so if she does start barking or whining in the middle of the night, don't hesitate to give her a potty break. She may very well need it. But long term, she'll sleep through the night quietly and do that just fine. So, and again, with that, all good dogs fetch toys. Make sure you always ask her to wait for your verbal release before releasing her from her crate. Stay. Okay, good girl. And as far as going through doors and gateways and that kind of thing, I don't care what position she's in when she stays. I don't care if she's sitting, standing, or lying down. Good girl. I just want her to stay put and wait for me to give her the okay to go out. Good girl. Yes. The final command is one of our foundational commands. I'm going to say it very carefully here, but it's watch me. Watch me. Okay, good girl. The way dogs are designed is they're not like us, where we can be carrying on a conversation with one person and thinking about something entirely different at the same time. They're not natural multitaskers. Matter of fact, they're just not capable of that. So wherever their eyes are is 100% where their mind is, even if it's just for a split second. So if you're able to get their eyes, you have their attention. And this can essentially give you the ability to distract them from a distraction. Like, for example, if she's headed across the road, if she's chasing a cat, something like that, if you can just get her attention, all you're looking for is for her to break her focus on whatever her focus is on and put her focus back on you, then you have her, and then you can follow up with something else, like a come or something like that. Good girl. So I highly recommend, you know, this can be a life-saving command. I highly recommend that you practice this several times a day. Good girl. In lots of different contexts, and always have a high value reward ready for her when she follows through, so that she never ever hesitates on that, and she'll follow through in a time of crisis when you really need it. Watch me. Okay, good girl. Watch me. Okay, good girl. Yeah, that's a good girl. You can have your toy, yeah. Okay, so we've gone through come, sit, stay, down, stay, crate, drop it, watch me, go to bed. Not only do we really spend a lot of time orienting her to her crate, but we also spend a lot of time orienting her to her bed. This is a very natural place for a dog to learn to stay on, because it becomes saturated with their smell because they're always laying on it, and it also provides a physical barrier for her. She can see exactly where she's allowed to be. We've taught her to go there on command. Go to bed. When she goes to bed, I don't care what position she's in, again, sitting, standing, or lying down. Good girl. I just want her to stay on, I want her to be completely on her bed, and I want her to stay on her bed until she's released with a verbal release. Nope. Go to bed. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Good. Yeah, that's good. So that she knows that this is just as good as being in a crate. Once she's told to go to her bed on command, that she's expected to stay there until she's released. If you have a natural downtime as a family, kind of maybe you watch a show or read or something, I really recommend that you put her bed close by and you practice extended downstays on the bed. You know, now she's still in puppy mode, so she's doing just a couple minutes at a time, but build up to, 10, 15 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, and you can easily get a 1 or 2 hour long, nope, go to bed, downstay, extended downstay. There you go, good girl. On her bed within the first year, and that's a really, really handy thing to have. On that note, another thing I recommend is for the first week or so that you get a 4 or 5 foot leash like this, and you attach it to her collar, and you let her drag it around in your house, because that gives you a tool to give her feedback on what is and is not allowed in your home. For example, if you don't want your dog to go on the carpet, if she's not allowed to go on the carpet, if she's going to walk on the carpet, there's very little you can do about that unless you have a leash attached. Then you can hurry and grab, go to bed. Good girl, yes. And you can, just like that, you can guide her back to where she's supposed to be. Good. And reward her for where she's supposed to be, and then give her a verbal correction and 2 quick pops on the leash whenever she tries to cross that boundary, so that it's very clear in her mind on what her boundaries are and what she is and is not allowed to do. Okay. And it's important that when you do give a correction, that when you do tell her no and give her 2 quick pops, that you quickly follow up with telling her what she is supposed to do, so you don't leave a void there. Guide her to where she's supposed to be, or give her something she's supposed to do, like if she jumps up on the counter or something, hurry and give her a sit command or something like that, and when she follows through, then reward her for the correct behavior, so she knows what she is allowed to do or what she is expected to do. Let's see. Good girl. So house training, Ella has been taught to go and touch a bell with her nose that's hanging on a ribbon, and we're going to send a bell home with your puppy packet. Good girl. To let you know that she needs to go outside. And she knows where the bell is here. She's going to need to relearn where it is at your house. And the way to do that, we've kind of touched on this in the manual, the training manual, but take the bell and rub something on it that will catch the attention of her nose, like a little bit of peanut butter or grease or something. It doesn't have to be very much, just a little bit. They can pick up on that from a long ways away. And when she's not looking, go hang that on the door that you're going to be using most often to take her outside. And then be available for her for when she sniffs that out and discovers it. When she initially touches it, she's not going to be ringing the... well, I didn't tell you to go to bed, did I? She's not going to be ringing the bell. She's just going to be sniffing something out. But when she touches it, your response is going to tell her what that means. So say, okay, that's her marker for she did something correct. You'll notice that when I said that, I got her attention. And then I really emphasize the word outside. You want to go outside? Let's go outside. And then grab her leash and take her out to a very specific place in the yard. That'll really help if you designate a toilet area in the yard and you let that area get saturated with her scent. So take her quickly out to that spot. Don't lollygag her, don't let her sniff around or find toys or anything else. And then take her to that spot and say, good outside, as you walk her around. You want to keep her moving, otherwise, because they've been taught to sit so much that she's probably just going to sit and look at you because she knows you have a reward. And she's going to be waiting or volunteering different behaviors to get that reward. But keep her walking, say good outside, and you need to completely ignore anything else she does. It's really important that you don't engage her at this point or interact with her because she's going to try to see what she has to do to get a treat from you. But usually what I do is I pick a spot on the horizon and that's what I look at. I don't even make eye contact until she's gone to the bathroom. And then as soon as she goes to the bathroom, then you mark it. Okay, good outside, good girl. And that lets her know that that's what you were expecting. So that routine, taking her on the leash, going out to a potty spot, and ignoring her, not making eye contact, and keeping her moving, that is her cue to let her know what she's expected to do. And she's expected to get right down to business and go to the bathroom. And that way, especially in these cold winter months, you're not spending 15, 20 minutes trying to get her to go potty. She just goes potty, and you bring her right back inside. End of story. Good girl. Yeah. So she has been ringing the bell consistently and reliably. Just as a caveat to all puppies that we send home, just keep in mind that they still are puppies. They still are physically and mentally not completely mature yet. And especially with transition, there's a lot of uncertainty about all of that in her mind until she understands what the routine is and what she can expect from you. So make sure for the first little while that you do supervise her and that you watch her. And if you need to take your eyes off her, that you put her in her crate, excuse me, so she doesn't have an accident, so you don't provide her an opportunity to mess up. But if you stick to that routine, you take her out regularly, and she's reliable for up to at least 2 hours in the house during the day and for all through the night, a full 8 hours in her crate, locked in her crate. Then very quickly she's going to understand what the drill is and what's expected from you. And then it's the same thing that was expected over here. So just make sure that you set her up for success as much as possible when you get home and not just let her have free reign of the entire house and she doesn't know what to do and she needs to go potty, so she sneaks behind a couch and has an accident or something. Good girl. I think that pretty much covers it. Ella has done an excellent job. We think you're going to love her. She's got a great personality, and we're sure happy to have her here at North Star Goldens. Thanks.